Hello and welcome back to Survival Saturday with Johnny Tiger on November 11th, 2023. Happy Remembrance Day to all those of you who celebrated. And if you are looking for somewhere that you can shop for your upcoming holiday gifting, check out our sponsor, Hidden Corner Finds. They got action figures and toys and retro goodies and antiques. A lot of really cool stuff. So if you want something truly special for Christmas to give to people, then hit them up. They give really good deals, especially if you email them ahead of time and mention the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast or just Johnny Tiger. And they also combine shipping. So yeah, check them out. Today we are going to look at another little knife review. Mostly because I was out in the cold and wet for most of the early afternoon, and my energy level is really low right now. So I don't have a lot of energy to jump around and show you guys cool martial arts stuff. So we're going to look at this knife that I got for Kitten a couple of years ago, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at it. It honestly, Kitten and I both tried really hard to love this knife because it looks cool and it has some good point to it. But I will say it right now. It's like one of the worst knife I've ever carried and handled. It's just uh, not good. Okay. Um, this is a CRKT tailbone EDC knife, the CRKT tailbone EDC knife, the one we are looking at on the screen right now. As you can see, it is a pretty small knife, and it has a, uh polypropylene uh, sheath like a lot of regular neck knife. So the sheath is not really all that special. It's very standard neck knife sheath. It got clip on one side. This clip you can actually remove um, to make it really standard or slender. The profile of this sheath is really slender. Okay, that's one of the good points. And flip it over, we can see other side very standard sheath for a neck knife. Easy to do a one-hand draw because you can just put your thumb on the sheath and then push it and it will come out. The one-hand draw, very simple. It got holes on the side of the sheath, holes here, these, so you can have this clip the way I have it now, or you can have it the other way around, like vertical versus horizontal, and you can have it on either side depending on if you're left-handed, right-handed, or your carrying preference. And you can definitely get a chain through these holes and wear this as a neck knife. Okay, very versatile sheath. Um, like I said, very standard for a neck knife, uh, slim profile. You can add a clip, you can add a chain, multiple carrying option. The sheath itself is pretty good. Like I will say that as far as sheath go, it's functional, it's versatile, it's multi-purpose, or uh, give you a lot of alternatives and options to carry. Now, as when it comes to the knife itself, we're going to draw this out, and then we're going to put the sheath off to one side. For the most part, it's a very, excuse the hand, it's a very standard looking neck knife. Got a big finger ring on it for your index finger to go through. It has some jimping along the spine. It is got a very full wide blade, full bellied wide blade uh, with a kind of a upswept design. So very standard neck knife affair, very standard pocket knife affair. It is, look how wide that blade is. It's wider than my two fingers put together. So it is a pretty wide blade, okay? It's almost as wide as my three fingers together. It's single edged, got a very straight back, got a really sharp point. It is about 2.1 inches long, the blade itself. The whole knife is about 6.3 inches long. And this is why. This knife, as you guys can see by now, has a really strange handle. There's a handle look like a paracord wrapped knife handle, very straight, very slender. But look at this, it wiggles, right? It reminds me of a watch chain actually. The way the handle is constructed is chain link, so it wiggles left and right, but there's no wiggle forward and back. Well, a little bit of wiggle forward and back, but like I can put a lot of pressure on here, and it's not going anywhere. But it definitely wiggles left and right. Like look how I can curl this almost. Yeah, I can curl this all the way around like this. Like I can touch the end of the uh, handle to the finger ring, right? Like this is just like weird. So this knife, it's high carbon stainless steel. Doesn't tell me what grade of stainless steel. Uh, like I said, the brand is CRKT, Colombian River uh, Knife and Tool. Like I said, my energy level is a bit low, so excuse me. I can't even talk. And it's made by or designed by T.J. Schwartz from Idaho. And he apparently designed this inspired by the spine, the bone on a fish. So yeah, it kind of you can see that like it wiggles like how I don't know if you guys ever got those like back in the 90s, mid 90s, they were everywhere. You got these keychains that have like simulated skeleton of a fish on it, and they wiggle left and right like crazy, but they are very firm when you flex them forward and back. So this definitely remind me of those little fish skeleton keychain that we had back in the 90s. Uh, I kind of wondering if that guy was thinking about those when he designed that. So what it does is give you a handle that is, in theory, allow you to have a better grip. So when you're working with a knife, you have a better grip. And this handle supposedly, when you're wearing the knife, it's conformed to your body. Especially when you wear it as a neck knife, and it allow you several different angles of cutting and stuff like that. So at least that was the thought behind it, to have a flexible uh, handle on a otherwise very generic, very standard neck knife. Um, Unfortunately, the it looks cool. It's one of those knives that looks super cool, but when you start to handle it, like it's great for regular like light cutting. We're going to do some cutting tests in a little bit, but it's just okay. Like as far as cutting go, this handle really doesn't add much of anything. Uh, with a knife like this, when you want to cut, there's usually two ways of holding it. You either get your index finger through the ring and you put your thumb on the spine and you hold it like this. So your thumb is controlling the knife as you're cutting. Okay? When you hold it like this, the problem is when you put pressure down, you're wiggling the tailbone. The tailbone handle is it's wiggling. So that kind of twist the knife in your grip. It's very weird feeling to try to do anything heavy with this. I actually contemplated just take a hammer and take off this tail on it because it's something that look good, but it's very frustrating when you're cutting. So I have to resort to my second style of gripping, which is get my middle finger through it and then put my thumb on the side of the blade and rest my index finger along the spine and then work like this. This is way more stable. But because now the tail of the knife is constantly pushing up on my hand, it's not comfortable on my wrist, right? So honestly, that tail might have been a cool idea, but it's one of those things that really should have been tested thoroughly before being released into the world because it looked great, but it sucks when I try to work with it. Now we're going to do some quick cutting test, and before I give you my final thoughts, the final verdict on this knife, I mean you already know I told you I don't like it, but we'll talk a little bit more about why exactly don't I like it, other than the wonky handle. I mean honestly, if it was just the wonky wiggly fish handle, fishtail handle, I can learn to like it, right? It's not ideal. It's it's wonky as hell in your grip, but that's not the whole reason why both Kitten and I decided that this is just a knife best left alone. Uh, it's not worthwhile purchasing. But we'll get back to that. We'll do some cut test first. First, let me show you guys this little issue with this knife when you carry this. Right now, I have this clipped to the side of my body on my vest, and look how wonky this is. The When you have a regular knife clipped like this, the handle will face upward, okay, and it will stay there, close to your body, which means you know where that is, and you don't have to worry about it. But when you carry it this way, see how, because the tailbone design of the handle, it will sag to the side like this. And it's not attractive, it's weird looking, and it's just not cool. It will get in your way a lot when you're carrying this knife on your belt, in your boot, clip to your clothes, clip it to your backpack. You always are worried about this flipping out to the side like this and getting snagged. Okay? We'll talk a little bit about that in the end of the video. All right, so we got our standard cardboard box here. Because, like I always say, if you want to find out how good a knife is, you just all you have to do is figure out how good it cuts in cardboard and stuff like that, right? So we're going to take a few pieces off this cardboard box. Now, this is one of those knives that the first time, the first time I tried to work with it, I struggled because of this handle, because of how wonky feels in the hand. And I almost said, what a piece of crap. It can't cut worth anything. But once you get the hang of it, then as you guys can see, it will actually cut pretty decently. Uh, I mean, it cuts a lot better when I'm not trying to figure out the angle to do this at. Usually I don't cut things holding it this way, right? But you can do some really fine little, like short, quick cuts with this. It is a nice, sharp knife, right? And mostly you're controlling this using your wrist and your thumb. That's one piece of cardboard, right? It is also, even though it's a really wide blade, like I said, the knife itself is only like 2.1 inches. So you don't have a lot of knife to work with. Okay, this time we're going to turn it around and cut it back, left to right, this way, so it's easier on my wrist. Yeah, you really don't have, look how small this is. You really don't have a lot of knife to work with. Um, so you got to be mindful of that. That's the second piece. Honestly, it cuts even better than this. Usually, normally, it's just because I'm doing this at such a weird angle. I'm have to like, if I put this box on the table and face the box and actually cut it how a normal person would cut something, this is a lot easier. But even so, you guys can see that this does slice through really, really well, like that, right? So now we're going to talk about this. Is this a good utility knife? Mm, well, it cuts really good. It's kind of short and stubby, and the handle is wonky. So I think if it's your only utility knife, it's fine. It will do the trick, and do it quite well. But there are a lot of similar utility knives that you won't have to worry about this wonky tail thing going on. So while it is an okay utility knife, I just can't see other than like the novelty of having a waggly fish tail on your knife. I can't see why you would want to pick this one. So it's kind of like yes and no. Is it a good survival knife? Hell no. Okay? Like, even as a secondary knife, it's not good. So, I'm going to say, like, one of the primary reasons why is not a good survival knife is a survival knife, the handle is very important, right? I illustrated that before. The butt end of the handle, you use it to break glass or hammer, tent stake, or at the very least, give you a strong swing with your knife. This handle doesn't do any of that. Okay, it's floppy, it's weird, handles really weird. You can't depend on it for anything unless you want to unwind the paracord and use that for in a survival scenario. I guess that's okay. So yeah, as a survival knife, no, just leave it at home. Is it a good self-defense knife? Well, I said it before. Any knife in a self-defense is better than no knife. But uh, again, because of the wonky design, you can't really like you can't do this. Okay, you can't do a commando grip. There's just nothing for you to anchor your thumb and hand on. Okay, you can't do a commando grip with this. It, I mean, you can hold it, but the moment you get into a fight with this, it's going to twist. See how I can waggle this? That's not good, right? You can't do a defensive cut with it because it's too short. You can't really block anything with it. Uh, and again, the moment this gets pressured, it's going to turn because of the handle. So can you use it for self-defense? Yeah, I guess you can, but again, it shouldn't be something that you pick for self-defense. So it's maybe okay utility knife, but fails both in survival and self-defense. And on top of that, this knife carry a fatal flaw with it, and I do mean fatal in this case. Like I mentioned, Kitten and I both tried really hard to love this knife because it is unique. It's different from a lot of knives out there, and look cool. It looks fun. And we try to be open-minded and like, okay, maybe we just need to get used to it. And even after Kitten decided flat out not carrying this anymore, I I took over. I wanted to carry this because, in my head, don't do this, okay? I know what I'm doing. That's why I gesture like that. If you have a knife in your hand, don't gesture like that, right? I'm doing this for dramatic effect, and I'm perfectly aware of what I'm doing, right? Uh, I took it over because was thinking, well, maybe it's just not a newbie friendly knife. Maybe she's just not used to it. Maybe someone like a pro like me who handled a lot of knife can get it to work, no problem. It changed my mind within the first 2 days of me carrying it. After 2 days, I was like, okay, no, no, it's not going. I'm not carrying this, not on my person anyway. Maybe I'll carry it in a backpack. Maybe I'll carry it in my bag, but I'm not carrying this on my person because of this fatal flaw. Fatal in this case is very true because uh, this happened to Kitten and to me both. The first time was when Kitten was carrying it as a neck knife, so this was dangling here in front of her, and without either of us knowing, it slipped out of the sheath and it was just like still inside her shirt, but it was held like kind of caught on her pants, so it didn't fall out. And then when she came to give me a hug, this this thing stabbed me through her shirt. Luckily, I felt it and stepped away. I could have gotten hurt really bad, right? So, okay, one time that we thought, okay, maybe that's just a freak accident. Well, at least I thought maybe that was a freak accident. So when I took this over and I carried it, again, I carried it like a neck knife in front of my chest. The second day I carried it, I was out and about doing chores and I bent over to get something. The moment I straightened out, this knife slipped out of the sheath, fell out from the bottom of my shirt, and almost impaled my foot. And that's when I realized what's happening with this. This fish tail, because it's not rigid and it's quite long, it waggles around inside your shirt. So when you're moving around, it's very comfortable. When you're moving around, it doesn't poke you in the belly because when you move, it will flex like this. But the problem is, it will get snagged on your shirt. So why is it falling out when both Kitten and I carrying this? Because if you bend over, okay, and let's say you wear a tight shirt, the moment you straighten out, that's what it does. Your shirt or your skin is going to pull this out like that. A lot of times, this happens several times too. I carry a clip to my belt and I'm moving around doing things, and this fishtail flops outward, gets snagged on something, and the knife fall out. Okay, just a really lousy design. Uh, for any kind of carrying option because this thing is a hazard. It's a health hazard. This thing is just waiting to get snagged on branches or people's clothes or uh, doorways or stuff like that. So yeah, don't carry this. If you carry this, you run a big chance of getting hurt by it or hurt someone close to you when this fall out unexpectedly. I am really quite surprised that this is a CRKT knife because when I first bought it, it said nothing about CRKT on the Amazon. I just assumed it's like a no brand uh, knife that someone came up with. They thought it's a cool idea and they're selling on Amazon. That's what I thought. I had no idea that this was CRKT knife. And when I saw it on CRKT's website tonight, when I was researching this knife, I was surprised because I love CRKT knife. There have never been a CRKT knife that I didn't like until this knife. So yeah, it's crazy. I know, like that there's a CRKT knife that designed this poorly, but there it is, folks. Just leave it hanging on the wall. Leave it in your bag. Leave it in your car. Don't carry this. It's dangerous and not in a good way.